Welcome to the Football Forecast, your ultimate guide to the NFL week ahead. Get ready as we dive deep into the biggest matchups, analyze key player performances, and break down the strategies that could make or break your favorite team's chances. Whether you're looking to dominate your fantasy league, make smart picks and bets, or simply stay ahead of the game, we've got you covered with insights and predictions. So buckle up, football fans. It's time to get your game face on for another action-packed week in the NFL. While only one team can hoist the trophy at the end, it all starts with the forecast. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Football Forecast here on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. Make sure you follow us on social media at TFB Forecast, ETB, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and also you can follow us on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ETB Network. Please help. Our numbers are continuing to grow, so subscribe. It helps. The closer to 1,000, the better. So just hit the subscribe button below. It helps. Also, listen to the Football Forecast wherever you get your podcast, except for last week, which we did live. There were a lot of people, I look back, that did listen. Thank you for listening to our live Super Bowl special. So you can get us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Acast, wherever you get your podcast, YouTube Premium as well. So check that out. Also, as we expand, we have the ETB Network Substack, etbnetwork.substack.com. I think everybody in this room does something so far for Substack. So please
except for me, mine's coming rather shortly.
Oh yeah, yours is coming at the beginning of March. So, but everyone is involved in some way, shape, or form in Substack. So, excuse me. So check it out, etbnetwork.substack.com. And the Football Forecast is presented by Playback. Watching sports is more fun with others, but we spend too much of our time watching alone. Playback is a virtual space where communities can stream live sports together with everyone perfectly synced up. Creators can hop on stage, deliver their own play-by-play analysis and commentary, and invite viewers up for Q&A. Playback makes watching sports fully interactive and a social experience, from playing fantasy sports, repping your favorite players and teams, and watching with the commentators and communities you care about. Win or lose, sports are best enjoyed together. Join our community by going to playback.tv/ETB Network to find out more, including our live stream schedule. We are working towards NBA All-Star Weekend. Just found this out a couple days ago. They are including every single event from NBA All-Star Weekend. So that includes the celebrity game, that includes the HBCU game.
So Tournament of Legends, yep.
Everything is on Playback. We have a few people confirmed already for the All-Star game, which hopefully this weird, awkward format of 4 teams playing for, what was it, like almost $2 million the winner gets.
Yeah.
We'll be on there to do that. So make sure you come by our community, playback.tv/ETB Network, to find out more. Okay. So this is a show that we do every single year. This is the Post Mortem of the NFL season right after the Super Bowl. And it's basically, we're going to put a bow on this season, and we're going to talk about a game that probably stunned about, what would you say, 95 to 96% of people, except for if you're in Philadelphia.
Probably stunned a lot of them, too.
You're right. You know what? It probably shocked 100% of people, to be quite honest.
Yeah, the way it happened.
Even the biggest Eagles fan probably wouldn't have predicted a 40-22 win.
Well,
No, I don't.
what's that guy's name? Gilly, the guy who's the big Eagles fan from Barstool.
Yeah.
That guy's a nut, but I can appreciate it because he's full Philadelphia Eagle fan. So I can appreciate it. I don't know where you get those big hats from. Those are...
Well, you know where that thing started was Brian Robinson was wearing one of them in the locker room, and it was his friend who was making those big hats, and ever since then, the whole thing soared.
I mean, I give him credit. I mean, he's a fan through and through. But this score, in my opinion, does not really show how this game went. There was a lot of garbage time points scored. Patrick Mahomes, for good measure, decided to throw a 65 yard pass to Xavier Worthy, who was the only offensive weapon for the Chiefs all game. The other thing that was surprising too, Saquon. I think he had 57 total yards in this game. So Saquon was not a factor. And
57 total yards and no touchdowns.
So,
on his birthday, which is kind of a bummer, but another birthday boy that we'll never forget where he was during the Super Bowl was Cooper DeJean. I mean, to score your first NFL touchdown in the Super Bowl, to have that goofy song about Cooper DeJean not being a safety play over and over and over again.
Funny. It's a good song.
It's become a phenomena in a life of its own, and he's going to be, I think, a Philadelphia legend for years to come as one of the most iconic plays, not just in Super Bowl history, but in Philadelphia Eagles history for sure.
Well, let's put it this way: the guy's probably never going to pay for a meal again in Philadelphia.
No.
I mean, just like Nick Foles.
For the Sixer game, like the night or two after, I'm like, he's living the life right now.
Well, they pulled up the stat after his touchdown. He's the first player to score a touchdown in the Super Bowl on his birthday.
Yes,
right. He's only the second player all time on his birthday to score a touchdown in a championship game. In the last year that it happened was like 1947 or something.
Yep, you got it. Which is crazy because I think anyone would have bet that Saquon would have been the one to score on his birthday and not Cooper DeJean. So I thought that was the craziest thing, that in a 40-22 win for the Eagles, Cooper DeJean was the one that scored a touchdown on his birthday and not Saquon.
And what's so crazy is, like, when we talked about this on the live stream, I was the one who said that they should just let Saquon run wild and play the receivers, but obviously they know better.
Yeah, they knew what they were doing.
Wow. Hey, speaking of Nick M, you had just mentioned it a minute ago regarding the score 40-22. You want to know the last time an NFL game had a final score of 40-22? You have to go all the way back to November of 2004.
Ooh.
Well, so 20 years ago.
I think they said it was one of the second or third times that score had ever happened in the NFL.
We almost had a score-gami, but we were slightly off.
That was one of the prop bets, by the way, a score-gami.
We almost had it.
What game was that?
Almost had it.
If you don't mind me asking.
Do you remember what game it was in or no?
It was the Patriots against the Rams during the regular season 20 years ago.
All right. Oh, that was probably at Fox where we kicked their ass.
Probably.
Yeah. New England did win, by the way.
Yeah.
That sounds about right. But there's a lot of interesting things that happen in this game, including right off the top, the OPI call that was made on A.J. Brown. And we'll go around and we can all talk about this. But I think social media had a shitstorm for no reason on a call that was clearly right. Clearly right. The hand was in the face mask. And all NFL analysts, which, by the way, you could tell clearly which way the bias was going as they were watching this game. Because they're like, oh, it's unfair. ESPN analyst, NFL Network analyst, big influencers, all of them. After that one play, it's over. It's over. The Chiefs are going to win. The call's going to ruin the game. I mean, unbelievable. And Anthony, you and I were talking about this a little bit, so I'll let you go first on this one. What was because you and I kind of went back and forth on this one. So what do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, the way I saw it, I didn't think it should have been called. I thought in a Super Bowl game, you let the players play. But I feel like, if you're going to make that call, just keep it consistent. And I think what happened was, I think there was so much of a storyline heading into this game with the referees, one-sided with the Chiefs, that as soon as you had one call that maybe could go either way, the analysts and the fans just jumped on it. And I think maybe the officials felt the heat as well, because I think we saw a little bit of over-officiating in this game. I feel like they were doing a little too much, and they were trying to do whatever they can to make sure when that game ended, there was no way they were saying the referees cheated the Eagles. But like I said, I definitely think it was over-exaggeration. And at the end of the day, the referees didn't make a difference, because either way, the Eagles were going to blow them out one way or another.
Yeah.
Well, Nick, I'll ask you, because you and I talk about the obscene social media that comes up. I think it was like a blatant overreaction. The amount of people were going off on Twitter saying that this was going to destroy the Super Bowl.
Well, it wasn't just an overreaction; it was a reaction that shouldn't have existed.
Right. Thank you.
Like, it's not even like the overreact. Like, why were you reacting that way at all? I mean, the thing is, the only reason this is not even that big of a story is because the game was such a blowout anyway.
Right.
Against the Chiefs. But was it the right call? Yes, it was the right call. He had his hand in his face mask. I mean, like, that is called 99% of the time. That type of play is supposed to be called. And the next drive, they had a ticky-tacky call against the Eagles, which was way worse than that call was. So I don't I'm sorry, that went against the Chiefs. That was much, much worse than that call was. So I don't know what to tell. Like, it was very, very clearly the right call. I don't even know what everybody was even talking about. Like, his hand was in his face mask. I don't know. I
think people were just crowing because, like, obviously everyone thought the Chiefs were going to get another call, which the refs, and I think Anthony said this well too, that the refs were over officiating the game. And a lot of people were saying that this game was going to be over officiated because they had to worry about Chiefs bias going into the game. Pat, what did you think?
I just wanted to feed off of what Nick said there. I mean, literally, whether you agree with it, whether you don't, there was a horrible call made on the Chiefs literally on the next drive. They immediately made up for it. I mean, I know sometimes, like, it's a joke, like, the the refs will make up for things when they miss a call and stuff like that, or make a bad call. Well, They actually did right there on the next drive. So I thought that kind of just wiped away any argument when one bad call gets made and then a similar bad call gets made on the next drive. End of discussion. Don't talk about it anymore. I didn't think there needed to be much of a reaction after that. And also, I do think the commentators made it worse than it was, because I remember when they showed the replay, the commentators just ignored the face mask. I was sitting there and I was like, he had his hand in his face mask. The commentators didn't point that out. They just kind of acted like it was a horrible call because there wasn't a clear push-off or anything like that. I don't think the push-off was the issue. It was the hand in the face mask.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Ben, what was your reaction to all that social media storm?
It's just in terms of everything in general. I mean, it wouldn't have made a massive difference at the end of this game. The refereeing we could talk about specifically. I know me and Nick were talking about it on Moving the Goalpost in terms of the Chiefs all year, but it's just, that first drive, obviously, the Chiefs obviously were like, here we go again. And then that next ensuing drive, it was a very questionable type of thing in which, all right, we can go back and forth with it. But I would say for the most part, I mean, and I think, was it Ron?
Ron Tolbert?
Ron Tolbert, thank you. His crew was pretty solid. I think for the most part, they have like one of the best crews, I would say, out of any crew. And that's obviously not saying much, but but yeah, no, I thought after it, I mean, one, the game was a blowout, so maybe they were kind of being a little bit more on the easy part of it. I mean, that's not really saying a lot.
They want the game to end.
That too. And I just thought that it was a pretty clean game. There was not a lot of specific things. I mean, maybe with that Jordan Davis, I think it was a Jordan Davis face mask on Mahomes. Everything else was pretty, it was solid. I mean, there really wasn't anything else that I saw. To me,
I'm getting tired of that call, by the way, with where Mahomes clearly gets hit in the face. Like, clearly gets hit in the face, and they don't call it. Like, I
saw too with him, really quick, and sorry to cut you off. He didn't really, like, say anything back. Typically, when Mahomes essentially is caught in, like, a lot of calls, he goes to the ref and's like, making something. Like,
he's Tom Brady.
Yeah. So, I guess he just was kind of giving up, too.
But if you remember how many weeks ago, and Zan, you can check my math on this if I'm wrong, the game against the Texans, where the two guys knock heads together.
So this would have been almost a month ago from when this is coming out, ironically enough.
Yes. Almost. So, which they got that one completely wrong. Completely wrong.
I was talking to you when that call happened. I remember that.
That was the refs protecting Mahomes, which I couldn't believe. But this time he gets hit in the face and they don't call it. Like, so it shows you how uneven the officiating is across the NFL. And I guess maybe this proves that I guess the NFL didn't really want the Chiefs to win. I don't know. Or the Eagles just played really well, which they did play really well.
Yeah.
And I just think they had a better game plan. I've made this joke a few times already, but it's almost like the Chiefs left their offense in the French Quarter somewhere and forgot that they were supposed to play offense. And I don't know. I mean, just a bizarre game. What did you guys make of the strategy on both sides? Zan, what did you think right off the bat?
Well, I still have to answer the question about the call because
Oh,
I
okay.
haven't gone yet.
Yeah.
So first off, I just find it hilarious how these so-called analysts pretend that they've watched every game this year when they clearly haven't. Because if they had, they would know that if that play somehow ended up becoming a touchdown, I guarantee you there wouldn't have been as half the outrage as there ended up being. I think people just wanted to stir stuff up because it was the Super Bowl and they needed something to complain about, that something didn't exactly go the way that they expected to go. And as Pat just alluded to it, of course, the officials made up for it on the next drive, and arguably what was a worse off call than the call before it. So yeah, in retrospect, I don't think it impacted the game really at all. Philadelphia jumped out to a 34-0 lead. Mahomes got sacked 6 times. I mean, the narrative overall was going to play out how it was going to play out. I think one call doesn't really impact the game in either way. Even if it does, there's that old saying: take the guys who don't play the game out of the equation. And in this case, it was the referees. And for whatever reason, Kansas City got held up on whatever it was, and they were never able to recover from it. And as you alluded to, they probably left the offense out there somewhere because it was non-existent. So,
yeah. No, I agree with that.
And as I alluded to, I'm going to say it again. I said it on my most recent edition of Band was Breakdowns this week. And as a simple plug, if you haven't listened to episode 37, go do so, because I say a lot about a lot of different things. But specifically in regards to the Super Bowl, this was one of those Super Bowls where I even admitted it. I said, if you played this game 100 times, both teams were so evenly matched in their own ways that Philadelphia might win 50 of the games and Kansas City might win 50 of the other games. And sure enough, this game happened to go to the Eagles. It's as simple as that. And you can't.
See, I disagree with that, man. I don't think it would have gone a different way. I disagree with that. I feel like if this game was played 100 different times, I don't see how the Chiefs are able to stop that pass rush. I mean, what can you really change on that? They were getting to them without even having the blitz. And we know that the Philadelphia Eagles, I mean, you can say that they're even, but if you go by talent and roster-wise, they're really not even. The Philadelphia Eagles are the much talented team. The only reason why people like us thought that the Chiefs were going to win because they have Patrick Mahomes and because they have Andy Reid, and somehow or another, even if they're not the most talented team, they find ways to win. But if we're talking about just talent, I think the Eagles are the superior team.
Well, one thing I'll throw out there also is Travis Kelce was nowhere, just gone.
Ghost.
Yeah. That's why Taylor Swift was basically never shown until she was booed.
Oh, we'll get to that in a little bit, because I laughed my ass off when they booed her. But
the film on Kelce, and you could see clips on it, were jaw-dropping bad.
He dropped a few passes.
Well, not just that, but there was a bunch of stuff. I mean, there was, of course, the Mahomes rollout where he kind of was rolling left and right, and there's a video clip of him legitimately standing. Like, he's not moving. He's legitimately just standing like, I'm telling myself, because I'm a little biased as a passer, and you're telling me that guy's better than Gronk? Gronk? Come on now.
He's not better than Gronk. I think Gronk will always be an all-time tight end.
And this is not about Kelce. I like Kelce a lot, but all the Chief fans out there clamoring away, telling me Kelce's better than Gronk.
Well, I think what I think was a big thing in this game too is that Kelce doesn't block. Kelce's not a blocker, and that pass rush just obliterated them the entire game, and Kelce couldn't help them out at all. Kelce has never been a guy that could help them out in that way. If they had a tight end in there, maybe like Kittle, and I'm not saying Kittle's better, I'm just saying if they had a guy like Kittle, that pass rush would not have killed them the way it did. They didn't have a tight end that could block on that line and help out their O-linemen.
You know what? I probably would take Kittle over Kelsey right now. I probably would. I think Kittle can block. And since you brought up block, look on the other side of the football. How many times did Barkley step in for a block to make sure his quarterback did not
How
get
many
hit?
amazing blocks did Barkley have? I mean, seriously.
That was
In that first half alone.
At
Yeah,
least
that was
6.
one thing from a couple years ago that in the Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts got sacked a ton. They had a ton of pressure, the Chiefs did. They did not have that specific running back that not only was able to run the football, but to have a pass block. And I think that Jalen Hurts, that Devontae Smith touchdown, it was all because of a very good offensive line for the Eagles and with the pass block and a Saquon. Massive.
I mean, Saquon saved Jalen from getting sacked quite a few times from that number one defense, which I question a little bit that they were number one defense considering they got absolutely obliterated in the Super Bowl. But the Kelsey thing is interesting just because now there's rumors out there that he could retire. In my opinion, he should retire. That's just my opinion. He looked like washed up in this game. He didn't do a damn thing. How many yards did he have? Do we know?
Did he even how many receptions did he even
I can't tell you
He
off
had
the top of my
4,
head.
Nick. I do know that.
How many was it?
4 receptions.
4 receptions.
I think 39 yards Kelsey did.
Oh,
And
wow. Okay. More than I
that's
would have
9.8
thought.
yards average a catch, but it was all in garbage time.
That's
So,
pitiful. Like for a guy that they say is supposed to be one of the best.
Well, in fairness, Mahomes also gave him a lot of really bad throws.
Okay, but also the other thing we need to talk about is Patrick Mahomes had to run for his life every play.
No. The Chiefs' offensive line was putrid. It was the worst I've ever seen. It was the worst domination I've seen between two good teams on the line of scrimmage.
Yep.
Like the Eagles won that game because of basically the way I'll put it is this: the Eagles won that game on the ground. They won that game on the ground. That's how they won the game.
Played pretty well, to be fair, though.
Yeah, but you know what? You know what's scary also?
No, I'm not saying Hurts didn't play well. He definitely did. I'm just saying the biggest reason they won that
He only
game.
had what, 6 incompletions? He played fine.
Five incompletions.
I agree, though, Nick. Yeah, the
No. Jalen Hurts played very well. I'm not disputing that at all. I'm just saying the biggest reason that they won was how they destroyed them on the ground. That was the biggest reason.
I would say that either Cooper DeJean or somebody should have won the MVP, not Jalen Hurts.
Gotcha.
Even though
So I think Jalen Hurts kind of deserved it, but I will say, but Cooper DeJean, he just had a pick 6. Does that mean he's the MVP?
I think the whole defense. No, the whole defense could have been like the MVP of this game. They totally. And by the way, just to tell you, Jalen Hurts was the leading rusher for the Eagles. That just tells you that he was on his game. So he had almost 300 all-purpose yards.
And Ben, you were talking about how Hurts got sacked a lot. The first time these teams played in the Super Bowl, he was only sacked twice in the first meeting between the two teams.
I mean, it felt like that he got sacked a lot. At
least maybe it was pressures.
Yeah,
maybe because
I probably stood to correct that then. Yeah, he didn't probably get sacked a lot, but the amount of pressure that he had and with the lack of the pass blocking from the running attack, I think Gainwell.
He also fumbled the ball too.
Yeah. So
yeah.
He didn't help himself either.
But here's the abnormal part. So Mahomes has 2 picks. He gets sacked 6 times. And I was sitting next to my brother while we were watching the game, and I said, why is he not moving out of the pocket? He kept driving into the teeth of the offensive line. I didn't understand that. Usually when you have a good Patrick Mahomes, he will slide out and move. And he just was not doing it.
They were right there on him, though, Nick. That's the problem. They had a specific game plan in which they played 4 on the front, 2 defensive ends on the outside, and they passed everything with the test. Fangio essentially looked at the Tampa scheme against Mahomes a couple years ago from the Super Bowl and basically said, run for your life, let you beat you with your legs, and it didn't happen.
And by the way, Mahomes had the most rushing yards for the game, too, for the Chiefs, which is also a scary scenario.
Right. Well, I was going to bring that up. The Chiefs have to look at a potential running back this offseason. I mean, I'm sorry. I know Isaiah Pacheco was coming off the big injury, but their run game was non-existent in this game, and it was a serious problem. I know they were down early, but they were never able to get the ball on the ground.
I want to point out another stat too, since Pat, you like looking at the stats too. So Hunt, Pirine, and Pacheco. So let's see, 9, 8, 7. If I do my math, that's 24, right? The three of them had 24. Mahomes had 25.
How many attempts did they have? The three running backs.
7.
7 for 24 in a Super Bowl. I know they played from down early, but just the fact that they didn't even rely on their running backs to even get them close to back in the game is a problem.
Unbelievable.
And I feel bad
That's what I think.
I feel bad for Xavier Worthy, who had a huge game. Now, I know one of those was in garbage time, but still, to have 8 receptions, 157 yards, and 2 touchdowns, like, this guy probably needs to be the number one on the offense for them next year. And it's not even close.
Maybe Rashee Rice. We forget Rashee Rice was injured.
That's true.
He was a massive part for the Chiefs early season, and then Mahomes blew his knee out.
Wasn't Rashee Rice the one who also had the incident off the field also?
Yes.
He did.
That's a whole nother issue. But
he was great when he played this year, though. That injury really did hurt them in the end because we saw the drop passes from DeAndre Hopkins, the poor game from Travis Kelce. Not having a guy like Rashee Rice in the Super Bowl killed the Chiefs.
And also,
Kelce, not having a guy to where you could just fall back on where it's 3rd and 7 and you need a boost and you need like a 13-yard chunk play. They didn't have that guy either in the passing game or in the running game. They had neither. So
I mean, I think, to be fair, I don't think it with Rice or not, but the way that the Eagles defense was playing.
I agree.
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
I agree. It's just it would have at least helped a little bit for sure. I don't think they would have gone down. I don't think they would have gone down 34-0 if that was the case. That was the shocking thing. If you would have told me going into the Super Bowl that the middle of the third quarter the score would be 34-0, I would have wanted to know. I would have wanted to know what you were smoking, and if I could have some of it.
Well, I think it was like a crazy stat. I think it was like 5 minutes left in the third quarter, and the Chiefs got past the 50-yard line for the second time. It was like their second play from like an opposing territory. Well, it was something stupid, and I was just like, "What the hell?"
I'll give you a stat. I think it was they were up 24-0, and the Chiefs only had like 24 yards in the first half or something. I read. But Anthony, since you and I talk scheme a lot, I'm curious. What did you think of the scheme? Since now we're kind of at the first half, what did you see scheme wise? Because you and I talk a lot of scheme.
Well, you could definitely tell Steve Spagnuolo and Kansas City's defense, I don't think really respected Jalen Hurts. I mean, they saw the game film. They saw what everybody was saying about how the passing game was struggling. They were talking about A.J. Brown rather reading a book on the sideline instead of catching passes. So people didn't really respect Jalen Hurts in the passing game. So I think Steve Spagnuolo decided we're going to take away Barkley and let Jalen Hurts beat you. The only problem is Jalen Hurts did beat them. And I think Vic Fangio, the defensive coordinator, had a great game plan for the Eagles. And we talked, ad nauseum about how great Steve Spagnuolo is. Well, now we got to mention Vic Fangio as one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL as well.
Now, they didn't blitz. They didn't blitz all game. It was all 4-man rush, right, Anthony?
Yes, they got to Mahomes with just a 4-man rush without blitzing. They had their great cornerback play with Mitchell, Slay, and DeJean, and with Carter in the middle, with Sweat on the outside, and Nolan Smith. I mean, they were just destroying the Chiefs' offensive line. And we also got to remember, too, we talk about how they need running backs. They really need a left tackle. I mean, you had a guy in Joe Tooney who's really an all-pro guard, but he's got short arms. So when you put him at left tackle, and he's got to go up against these edge rushers who are 6'6" with long arms, of course he's going to struggle. You get a left tackle, you can move him back in the guard, and I think that would make all the difference. And I think a great offensive line would help the running game.
I mean, also Josh Sweat, 2.5 sacks in this game, also was a beast. You can't say anything bad about the Eagles line. They just totally owned everything in this game. So we get to the half. Now it's time for the halftime show. By the way, this was probably one of the worst halftime shows I've ever seen in the amount of halftime shows. And I remember Katy Perry with dancing sharks on each side of her.
Why didn't you like it?
It was terrible. It was awful. Like, it seemed like, I don't know if Apple Music, even as the sponsor, like if they're in charge of the budget for everything that goes on stage, they completely cut it and they had nobody around him whatsoever. And then I don't know if you guys saw it on social media. Did you see one of the crew people brought out like a foreign flag and was running around on the field, and they finally had to tackle the guy because he was in the middle of the performance?
What flag was it?
Yeah,
it was one of. I forgot which flag it was.
Flag or something.
Yeah.
What flag?
What'd you say
Sudan,
then?
I'm pretty sure.
Oh, Sedan.
Yeah, so like they had to tackle that guy because he was like right in the middle of the performance, like somewhere standing behind. He was like waving this gigantic flag.
Wait, a crew member?
They think it was a crew member. I can't
Because that
confirm
sounds really dumb if a crew member does that, because you're getting fired for that.
Well,
and
because he I don't know if you remember that car that a bunch of those people came out of at the beginning.
Yeah.
I think he came out of that vehicle, and it was a whole thing. And then this weird Serena Williams dancing randomly in the middle of it, which made no sense. Now, did you hear the story for why she was there dancing in it?
She was in the music video.
Well,
I think. I could be wrong. I think
No.
she was in that music video.
no. So
She
You
used
know-
to date Drake. Is that what you're going to say?
yes, that no.
By the
that-
way, it's funny you bring that up, because I didn't know that until the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I didn't
know
either.
Drake dated Serena Williams. What was
Yeah, I
that?
didn't know that either.
So
didn't either.
apparently they were trying to make beef even more during the Super Bowl
Because there wasn't enough.
because there wasn't enough. And I think all the songs sounded the same, to be quite honest. Nothing really stood out. It looked like he was on auto-tune. Didn't even look like he was
Didn't
singing.
it break the record for the most watched halftime show though?
It did. It was like 136 million views around the world or something.
Well,
Not
It's
only
one
did
of
it
the
break
most
the record
random.
for the biggest
How do they know
halftime
that?
show, it was the most watched Super Bowl of all time.
Ratings, Nick. They could go check all TV stuff. They could see who was watching.
Yeah, well, just because a lot of people watch it doesn't mean it's good.
Oh no, I'm the first one to tell you I thought it stunk.
Yeah.
I don't. And if this is a bad opinion, tell me. I don't like rappers leading the halftime show.
Why
I
not?
So why not?
I don't know. I feel like it's very like small minded. I feel like singers, dancers, other stuff can do more.
So are you saying that? Are you saying that sometimes rappers don't cater to every generation that's watching the Super Bowl?
Yeah,
and
kind of.
that-
But the same thing
Okay.
can be said about anybody you bring out. I mean, if you bring out, like, say, Phil Collins or
Nick,
something like that,
Nick,
there's going to be
here's the
young people
point.
who don't know who Phil Collins is.
Well, I'm not saying to go to that extreme, but
I'm just saying, no matter who you bring out, though, it's not going to appeal to every single individual.
that
No,
I
like
agree
when
with.
No, like when I was in Arizona the year that Rihanna did the halftime show, and I was watching the Super Bowl with a bunch of people. There were people that were obsessed to see Rihanna in the screen, and there were other people that decided to leave the room until the second half started. So,
Well,
as
I mean, I leave the room till the second half starts no matter what, because I need to get up because I was just watching the game the whole time.
By the way-
halftime show is mostly catered to people who go to Super Bowl parties who aren't really football fans. That's who the halftime show is catered to.
well, same as the commercials.
The
Same
Super
thing.
Bowl
Just like the
halftime
commercial.
show for me for many years, when my past from the Super Bowl, would be my time to eat, because during the actual physical part of the game, my nerves would be at an all-time high. So,
Well, that's if the Patriots were in the Super Bowl.
right, as I just said,
Yeah. So you're just so used to it, you know. That's such a humble bar. That's such a like.
That's such a humble brag.
yeah, it really
Like,
is.
when my team's in the Super Bowl, man,
Considering that
I
I'm
get so
sitting here as a
nervous.
Bears fan, and the last time the Bears won in the Super Bowl, I was 6 years old and barely even remember.
How about Nick and I haven't seen one at all since we've been alive?
That's
How
how we
about that?
feel when we play like the worst team in the NFL.
At least you
That's
guys
how we
got a
feel.
Super Bowl.
At least you guys got it.
I will say I
We weren't born for it. Let's put it that way.
The Super Bowls recently has helped, though. I will say.
I mean, I will say I saw so many takes on social media from people saying things like it doesn't appeal to the vast majority of the NFL audience, as if like the majority of the NFL audience hasn't heard of Kendrick Lamar.
And that's not
There's
my dispute
no way
either.
that's true. Like at least 90% of the audience has heard of Kendrick Lamar. He's arguably the famous he's one of the most famous rappers in the world, without
Right.
question.
And that's not my dispute. Everyone knows who Kendrick Lamar is. That I just don't think that catered to enough people in general to watch.
And also, by the way, you make a great point. The Super Bowl was in New Orleans. He's a Chicago native. Brings somebody
from
in that
LA.
caters to
He's from
the
Compton.
they caters to the city.
well,
He's from
they
Compton.
Lil Wayne. Did you see Lil Wayne during the Super Bowl lead up week was protested and didn't show
Oh,
up
right, yeah.
to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, right, because he's from New Orleans.
And
Yeah,
people-
some people thought Kendrick was going to bring him out. One of my friends told me, he's like, wait for Lil Wayne to come out. I'm like, what?
Well, no,
He obviously
actually,
didn't have any inside information.
well, no. So he actually came out a few days before the game and said they didn't ask me, so I'm not coming to the game. I'm protesting. because they should have brought me out. I'm from New Orleans.
Yeah,
And-
it would have made sense.
Not that I think Lil Wayne is the best performer by any means, but
Well, that was my argument with this whole Kendrick thing. Like everyone's going crazy about this whole Kendrick thing. Kendrick's not a good performer. He's a good rapper. He's a good
Right.
lyricist. He's not a performer. His concerts aren't even that good compared to some other rappers that are nowhere near his level.
But
So that was my whole thing with it. Was like, if you were going to choose a rapper, Kendrick was not the right rapper to choose. He's not a performer. He wasn't going to put on a show. He was going to put on I don't know.
Well,
And
he
that's
was
what
on the
I
halftime
lacked.
show 3 years ago. He was on the halftime show 3 years ago, and I thought he was terrible.
well,
Yeah.
he wasn't the lead though of that.
No,
He
Super
was
Bowl.
the lead, but he was on it, and I thought that was the worst part of it.
Oh wait, was that the one with Snoop and Dre and all those
Mary J. Blige, and then 50
Yes.
Cent showed up, hanging upside down.
hanging from a stripper pole?
That was
Yeah.
that was a great one,
I
honestly.
actually thought it was good. Yeah, I
It was a
remember
really
that one.
good
That was
No,
the one in
I'm not
LA.
saying
That
it wasn't
one-
good. But
that
Kendrick
one was
Lamar's
better.
part just wasn't very good.
No, but that one was better just because it had a little bit of everything in it, and they actually put a set together to be used, and kind of it felt more as like Nick said before, a music video ish a little bit when they did it. This one, it felt like they didn't even pan out because they didn't have as many people in it.
Yeah, well, that's the problem with individuals leading halftime shows. That's always going to be a
groups.
problem.
Like, for example, my favorite halftime show that I've ever seen is the Who in Miami during the Saints Colts Super Bowl. That was my favorite halftime show because I knew all the songs.
I mean, I like Bruno. Bruno Mars was pretty good at the Super Bowl, but he knows how to entertain. Like, he's not just up there singing. Like, he will entertain and make the audience feel energy. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of rappers kind of do fit that description
I don't know. I felt like he was
of
just up
not
there.
really being great entertainers.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, like, but at the same time, like Travis Scott is a significantly better entertainer. Like, if you've ever seen videos from his
As long as
concerts or
people at
something
his
like that,
concert
like
are-
that's a show. Like, if they were to, like, I'm not saying Travis Scott is on the level of Kendrick or even close, but if they were to put Travis Scott on the halftime show, it would have been a better performance
Oh, he
for
was on the
sure.
halftime
Can you
show.
imagine?
Years
At
ago.
one
It
point.
would have been,
Was
it would
he?
be nuts.
No, he
Yeah.
wasn't. Was he?
I think in 2017 he was on that.
Oh, yeah. Years
Was
ago.
it
Yeah.
his or?
Travis Scott, yeah.
I
Oh
don't know
wow.
if it is, but he was on it at one.
Okay, okay.
So that's what I thought.
But something like that, you know, like just those kind of guys are performers that would kind of play up to being in the halftime show. Kendrick is just like, I'm just gonna rap, you know. He's like, I'm just gonna rap up here and do
Well,
my
that's
thing.
why it would have been better if he wasn't by himself.
Yeah, no,
So-
I agree with that for sure.
I just did some fact checking. So the one you're talking about was the Maroon 5 year with Travis Scott and Big Boy during 2019.
Oh, I do remember that. Yup.
That was a Patriots year, actually.
Yeah, the
So
last Super Bowl that they won.
So Ben was eating during that show. He wasn't there for that one.
Correct.
So I don't know. It just the show didn't really do it for me at all. And the other one I left out, Samuel L. Jackson dressed up in patriotic gear, like interluding between every song, like trying to be
Uncle
patriotic.
Sam.
I'm like, what the hell is going on
I
in
think
here?
it was, not to sound political, I promise. I think it was trying to. I don't know. I could be wrong in saying this, but I think it was supposed to be like some sort of like American symbol of divide or something. I don't know. I don't know what
Yeah.
that. I don't know what that. I don't know what the purpose was of having him there. That was just my thought.
I didn't get it either. But
didn't
what
get
is the
it.
point of showing a flag that's divided? Oh, so the nation's divided. I mean, that's a very original opinion. It's not even.
Yeah, really.
Yeah,
I mean, like
Marty-
everybody says that. Like, I don't understand what that.
I mean,
means.
what's next? Were they going to say like Trump's an idiot and put it up on the screen too?
Well, they
Like,
did the Super Bowl commercial with Brady and Snoop Dogg too. That thing, and I guess that was part of it.
that commercial was good. I thought that commercial
Might
was
have
good.
been part of it though, like like the Divine
My
Nation thing.
favorite commercial was the Dunkin' Donuts one of Bill Belichick with his 24-year-old going crazy.
The
That's
only
story.
thing worse than him dating a 24-year-old would be if he drank Dunkin' coffee.
Yes.
Does
Let's
he?
see. Let's talk about commercials. Since did anybody watch any of the commercials? Because I really didn't get into
Well, I
it.
watched that one.
I did. I watched all of them.
Did,
it was
anyone have a
fun.
favorite?
That one. I talk.
Oh, let's see. My favorite would have probably been
Kanye.
Oh God! What? By the way, did you hear that the Fox CEO came out afterwards and said, We're sorry, we shouldn't have aired those. Well, you heard the whole.
He is so mentally unhinged. That's a different conversation.
wait
but
a minute.
that's so funny.
Yeah, which ones did you say?
Kanye.
Oh yeah, those were. Those
Did
were
you hear
crazy.
though what happened after that whole thing happened though, or no?
No, what happened?
So the link, which goes to his apparel shop, apparently there were shirts with swastika.
The only thing for purchase was shirts with swastikas
Yes.
on them.
And so
I did see that.
and the Fox CEO claims that they didn't know that those were in the apparel shop.
How he got away with that is so funny.
I bet that is unbelievable.
What were you
Oh
gonna
my
say, Nick?
I was saying they probably didn't. I mean, if they did, they probably wouldn't have aired the commercial because it's such a PR nightmare.
It's a PR nightmare having him in anything at this
No,
point.
but it's especially a PR nightmare.
I mean,
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know which commercial it was called, but it was the one where it was like they showed like multiple different types of people for multiple different walks of life, and it was a commercial to essentially say that like I am my own unique whole person. I thought
it was a Yeezy commercial, his brand.
No, Zan's talking about what his favorite one was.
Oh. What were you talking about? Sorry.
I don't remember which organization it was for, but it was like this commercial where they showed like it was like an NFL charitable commercial, and it showed like all of these different people where like the person at the front of the room said like say like my name is whatever, and it would pass it to the next person, and it was almost like this unison type commercial where it was all these different kinds of people saying this same thing, and at the end of it, it was like together we will unite, and then it cut off, which is pretty cool.
So, just for more context on this, 30-second commercials this year through Fox were $8 million. So, Kanye spent $8 million, or whoever helped him to put the commercial together, spent $8 million just so they could share a link to swastika shirts. Just saying. You know what I mean? Like,
it was worth it for Kanye, probably.
He doesn't care. All he cares about is his own doing. That's all he cares about.
I mean, I don't know if people remember this also, but he got banned from Twitter after posting an unprovoked anti-Semitic post.
I do remember that. Yep.
So, don't you think Fox would have learned like the first time, knowing he got banned, having 33 million followers on Twitter, that maybe they shouldn't put him on an ad?
He probably just marketed it as a Yeezy ad and slipped through the cracks.
He's
They just saw a video of Kanye talking, saw Yeezy, and were like, "All right, he's just being an idiot promoting his brand." They didn't think to actually check and see what his plan was.
Well, I've seen so many memes that say,
that's what I would have thought too.
I've seen so many memes that would say things like Yeezy distances themselves from Kanye West.
Is that his own brand?
Yeah, that's the joke.
Oh.
Or
Okay.
Ye has distanced himself from Kanye West or something like that.
Actually, by the way, speaking of Boston, actually Ben walked away for a second, but did you see Affleck doing the Dunkin' commercial also?
Yeah.
I did. Last year's version of the commercial was better, though, in my opinion.
I think the
one with like Tom Brady in the car where he goes into the studio and stuff. That one was better. In my opinion.
I'll ask Ben now since he's back here. Ben, did you see the Affleck brothers commercial? All Boston.
I didn't. No.
This was as awkward as it gets. Just saying. And then also, did anyone see the Chris Hemsworth, Chris Pratt, and Chris Jenner?
I did.
Meta Ray-Ban smart glasses commercial.
That was weird. That was so weird.
So there were some good ones, there were some bad ones, but that's pretty much, I guess, it on the halftime. And
I was hoping to see a Bud Light Genie commercial again, and like we saw last year that featured Dustin Poirier, but we never got it. Remember that one, Pat? You remember that? You remember the Bud Light Genie one from last year?
I do. I love that commercial.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
like
was
some of
hoping
them were
we get-
good.
I was hoping we get a redo, but we never got it. So
And then I guess one of the other things I'll mention for the halftime's sake, not really everything else. I mean, Trump, obviously first sitting president to be at the Super Bowl.
That's so hard to believe.
I
it
know,
really
right?
is. It really is.
Does anyone care? That's pretty much the question I have. I don't care.
I honestly think it's pretty cool that he was there. I just think no matter how prominent of a world figure you are, I think any world figure at any major sporting event is going to get attention. So regardless of how you feel, good for him. I
Yeah.
wish more sitting presidents would do that sort of thing because it's cool to see something where the whole country's watching. So why shouldn't the president go to the Super Bowl? I know
You'd think more
issues
would have
with it.
gone.
I was about to say that was my crazy part was that he was the first. It's like
Like
really,
George W. Bush never went to a Super Bowl.
like none of these guys ever went to a Super Bowl. It's kind of crazy to think about. Like I would figure that one would have at least, and it's cool. He's like he's come to UFC events. He's gone to the Super Bowl now. Like
Well-
as much as you don't like him, it's cool to see a president that kind of puts himself where people are. You know what I mean? And just
Oh,
No,
kinda,
I agree. That's how I feel too.
I
Yeah.
would say though the UFC is a little bit different just because he's had a relationship with Dana.
yeah, no, for sure. But just multiple big sporting events now he's went to, and it's like, when have you ever really seen presidents do that? I guess never.
I mean, he went to the national championship, but he wasn't the president yet. But
He's still the former president at the time.
so it is what it is.
Well, he
Are-
went to one of the national champ. He did go to the Alabama Georgia game when he was president. The
Oh,
game that
okay.
Jalen Hurts got
And if-
benched at halftime. He was.
and
at
if I'm not
halftime.
mistaken, he needed security up the wazoo. Like,
Oh yeah, everywhere he goes.
all former presidents need security up the wazoo.
no, but him
You're not even allowed
especially.
to drive. Former presidents can't even drive.
Well, yeah, would you allow a former president to drive? I wouldn't. Just
No.
saying.
Nope.
So even if he didn't get reelected, he would have needed security up the wazoo.
Yeah,
But
but when I was at UFC 309 covering the event as media, and Trump came to the event. I mean, we got checked in by Secret Service, like by like TSA style check-ins.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it actually made me feel safer than most places I've been because like
That's
seriously, like
pretty
they had the like top level of security. Like we literally got checked in by people in Secret Service.
you're talking about actually getting like checked, right? Not just walking in.
No. I mean, everyone. I mean, we were media and we got checked in by Secret Service. So I mean, every
but I'm
fan
saying,
there.
no, but I'm saying they had to check you for
Yeah,
stuff.
like it was like a TSA style setup of like putting your stuff through and everything.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh
Right.
yeah, they had setups. They do not mess around when it comes to that. So it actually is really cool because it makes those places a lot more secure.
Okay, so let's move on from the half. Let's go to the third quarter. Obviously, and I think they said it in the broadcast at the end of the half, the Chiefs really need to come out and score for any momentum's sake. And if I'm not mistaken, they turn it over on the first possession, I think. Is that,
That sounds right. Yeah.
and
Yeah, I think so.
now there were a bunch of guys in here who called me crazy when I said it was over after 14-0. The momentum was already bad.
In fairness, 14-0 is not over. And I didn't think it would happen, but I will say I thought, okay, maybe in the second half they'll turn things around because we've seen crazier things. That was my thought process.
But I think just the Eagles were just ready to go on every turn of the ball. They turn it
I mean,
over.
To me,
And then
the
I
whole
think they
second
scored.
half was just a massive blur. Like during the fourth quarter, I think I stopped paying attention because it was such a blowout.
Yeah, I stopped paying attention halfway through the third, to be quite honest. It was really hard to keep
game
an
was
eye on
over.
a game that
The
it was
game was
over.
over.
Yeah. Chiefs
And-
were showing no signs of life.
Not in the third quarter, but by the fourth quarter, it was over.
It was a little too late by the time the fourth quarter counts. They score, or actually, they scored at the end of the third, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was 34-0 until there was
It was worthy.
34 seconds left in the third quarter is when the Chiefs scored their first points. It
It-
was the worthy touchdown.
It was the worthy touchdown, which he had to come back to the ball to land in the end zone, and it looked like Mahomes was going to fly out of bounds before he threw that ball. But and I said to myself, this didn't change anything. They put
No.
a touchdown up; it didn't change anything.
No.
Like, do we really think they were going to score 27 points and tie this game? No. Like, there was no chance. And then I think, Nick, you mentioned it on your episode of MTGP. Like, the Gatorade got dumped with 2:52 left to go in the game. Like, we're like, wow. That usually you don't see it until the end, like when the game's official in the book. but this game was so gone that they were dumping Gatorade early.
I mean, we could talk ad nauseum about that, but you know what? Here's the thing. You know, you're bound to get some bad Super Bowls. It's just going to happen. It happens every 5 or 6 years. Like, it does happen sometimes. Like, the Super Bowl in 2014, the Seahawks-Broncos Super Bowl, that was terrible.
That was awful.
The Patriots-Rams Super Bowl was terrible, and this one was terrible. So, I don't know. I guess we were kind of due for a bad Super Bowl.
Yeah, but this one was not even close to good. Like,
I would say it was the worst Super Bowl since. Sorry to break you, Ben, but the worst Super Bowl since New England and the Rams. Considering that
it's my worst Super Bowl ever.
Slugfest.
That's my worst Super Bowl ever. I can't lie.
And then the Broncos Seahawks Super Bowl.
I couldn't watch that.
That
years before
terrible.
that.
I actually kind of enjoyed that one, to be honest. I don't know. That one at least was a bit more enjoyable because there were points put on the board. Like the Patriots Rams one was just so tough to watch for me.
Yeah.
I would say Denver Carolina wasn't that good either. That one was kind of a whimper. Because everyone was like, "Oh, it's the best offense in the NFL versus the best defense," and the Broncos just
so is this game.
beat their ass. It was
no,
not that. Well, which team was the best offense? The Eagles?
No. I'm saying statistically, it was the number one offense and the number one defense,
yeah,
number one running game. Excuse me, number one running game, number one defense.
Yeah,
thank you. That. My correction there.
Yeah, okay.
So you really had 2 number ones.
Well, in my article, I put it like the stat was the Chiefs hadn't allowed an 100-yard rusher in 18 straight playoff games. And Saquon has been a habitual 100-yard rusher this year, if not very high numbers. And my big thing was like, if Saquon's under 100 yards, what are the odds the Eagles win this game? Obviously, they were pretty damn high. So I was very wrong about that one, because seriously, I would have never expected the defensive masterclass that the Eagles put on. Not that their defense wasn't good, but to do this to Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in a Super Bowl that they're going for a 3rd straight year, it's just kind of crazy that just the way it happened. Like we said, it was 34-0 until there were 2 minutes left in the 3rd quarter.
Well, 34 seconds to be
34,
exact.
yes, 34 seconds, yes. So even like it was like what happened? Like it's hard to even like comprehend. It's hard to explain. You can't even really put into words what happened in this game. Obviously, the entire year, everyone was kind of like, all right, the Chiefs are like, their record was crazy during the regular season, but they snuck away with a lot of wins, got a couple wins maybe they shouldn't have. But then for this to happen in the Super Bowl, the way it happened was just kind of like how do you explain that?
I mean, we all knew eventually that all the 1-score victories were going to come back to bite them at some point, because they were just winning based off of Patrick Mahomes' arm. Essentially, that's how they were winning every game.
And their defense, which wasn't really a factor in this game at all.
But going into the 4th quarter, this was like the first 4th quarter of a Super Bowl in quite a long time where we already knew what the outcome and the result was going to be.
Yeah, very long time.
So it was the 4th quarter did nothing. They had garbage time touchdowns. I do want to talk about, and I put this clip out on our YouTube page before, actually from MTGP, and I'll ask Nick and Ben about that. But I want to get Anthony first, because you are animate about the GOAT debate, and I agree with everything you said, by the way. But
I didn't hear what he said. But
what?
I didn't hear what he said.
No. I'm just saying that, Anthony, we talked about the debate, and then you were animate about the GOAT debate that we need to kind of calm it down a little, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was just saying, I just feel like we live in a recency bias era where, like, as whatever the next new shiny new toy is, that's the next best thing. And I think we were kind of rushing Mahomes into the GOAT debate way too soon. Yes, if he had a 3-peat, would that be an unbelievable accomplishment? Yes, it would. But for people like Stephen A. Smith to say that 3-peat would automatically make him the GOAT, I feel like that was incorrect. I feel like he would still have to win a couple more Super Bowls to be the GOAT. And then on the flip side, I feel like because he lost, it doesn't necessarily take him out the GOAT debate. It just means that he has a lot more to do and a lot more to accomplish. I think we just brought up the GOAT debate way too soon. And now that Mahomes has now been blown out twice in the Super Bowl, whether if it was his fault or not, he's got 2 blown out losses in the Super Bowl. All the Tom Brady Super Bowls were all one possession games where he put his team in position to win in the fourth quarter in all the Super Bowls. So I just think people like Stephen A. Smith were just ready to put Mahomes as the GOAT, and I think they were sadly mistaken.
And then one thing that Anthony is failing to mention, but I'll mention it for him, is after the Super Bowl, he's like, "Oh yeah. It's over now. It's over.
Yeah. So this one Super Bowl,
I didn't mean it like that.
The GOAT conversation was strictly based on this one Super Bowl. So Mahomes, it can't be the GOAT if he loses, but he is the GOAT if he wins. Like, it makes no sense.
But then of course, ESPN gets the ratings and the headlines they want. Hell, I even wrote about it, and that's exactly what ESPN wanted. They wanted every sports media outlet in the country to cover that, and they got what they wanted. Well, it's as simple as that.
Nick, you and I joke about this because we work in that industry, but this is, what would you say, the best sports talk radio topic that everybody tries to bring up just to get everybody riled up? The GOAT debate, or saying like one is better than the other. Like, this goes back to LeBron and Michael Jordan debate. Yeah. Same thing. Like, now you're going to start seeing a debate. Who's better, Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady?
Yeah. You'll be seeing a lot of that. And for everybody just like saying, well, we can't make these comparisons anymore. I mean, first of all, when you talk about the GOAT debate, I agree with Anthony. You can't really compare who the GOAT is when Mahomes is this early in his career. What I will say is that
it's hard to compare GOATs, quote unquote, from different eras too.
That too. Although Mahomes and Brady are fairly similar.
Yeah, they crossed eras a bit.
But I will say, it's not that the GOAT debate is over. It's that it's still evolving, because we don't know where Patrick Mahomes' career is going to go. I mean, it is certainly possible that, in my opinion, he might end up as the GOAT over Brady. I don't know. He might or might not, because I just don't know. It's still early in his career. But what I will say is, for everybody saying these comparisons need to end between Brady and Mahomes, I mean, like, the trajectory of their careers has been very, very similar. Like, the notion that they can't be compared to me is crazy. They are very similar in a lot of ways. Just in terms of their career success. I mean, how many quarterbacks have 3 Super Bowl wins 7 years into their careers?
Not many.
Like, Mahomes and Brady are the only ones. And the thing is that when, like, as long as Mahomes is going to be playing in a lot of Super Bowls, there's going to be some bad ones. There's going to be some bad ones. I mean, Joe Montana is widely regarded as the best Super Bowl quarterback ever, but he only played in 4. If he played in a Super Bowl every other year, I mean, 5 out of the 7 years of Mahomes' career, he's been in the Super Bowl. It's like any other game for him. So if Joe Montana was in the Super Bowl 5 out of every 7 years of his career, he would have had some bad Super Bowls.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think he would have lost one that he would have made that he never made. If that makes sense, like one of the years where they made it to the NFC Championship, but they didn't advance.
Right. So as long as you're playing a lot of Super Bowls, some of them are going to be really bad.
Well, you couldn't tell me right now that in 1990, the year that the Giants beat the Bills, the 49ers would have hung whatever on the Bills because that Bills team was great. So you're 100% right.
Yeah, and also it's exactly like what you guys were saying. You go ahead.
No, you were saying about how, one game shouldn't decide the GOAT debate. That's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying we should have even had the GOAT debate to begin with coming into this game. And like I said, obviously the GOAT debate's not over. But, I think what you were saying, Nick, when you're playing a lot of Super Bowls, you're bound to have bad Super Bowls. But I think that even shows you how great Tom Brady was, the fact that he got the 10 Super Bowls, and all of them were one-possession games. He never got blown on any single one of them. Yeah, maybe he didn't have the greatest stats, but in every single Super Bowl, even the ones he lost, he did put his team in his position to win. I mean, he's a David Tyree helmet catch, a Mario Manningham sideline catch, and in the Philly Super Bowl, he threw for 500 yards and didn't punt the ball.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm looking at all of them right now. Not many of them.
I agree with all of it, by the way. Yeah, there's no reason to have a GOAT debate. I mean, even if Mahomes won, what would he have been? 4-1 in the Super Bowl? That was good enough to be considered the GOAT over Brady 8 years into his career?
I don't think he can be the GOAT this early in his career. What I will say is that just based on the trajectory of his career, he is by far the most likely to end up as
for sure.
And
No,
there's
yeah.
a good chance that he would. And
No,
which
I
is why
completely
those
agree.
debates were happening. I think it's an interesting debate, and I do like the comparison. I do like the comparison a lot.
Yeah, no, they're both 3-2 in their first 5 Super Bowls. I mean, like you said, they're on the same trajectory, and there's no way to take Mahomes out or throw him higher in the GOAT debate. Like, if you want to say this hurt him and he has some work to make up, of course, getting blown out in the Super Bowl, you're going to need to make up for some of that. But yeah, no, the whole thing of like never bring Mahomes' name up with Brady again, like I didn't like that was kind of just like
That's to me is just shows your bias. It's like when people
not
say,
even bias, just like that's like recency bias in the sense
Right.
that like, all right, he just lost the Super Bowl by a lot. What if he goes and wins the next 3?
All right,
You know,
if he was 3 in a row, he's probably the GOAT after that. Like,
but wait,
could be.
but this is LeBron Jordan debate all over
Yeah,
again.
yeah, it's really what it is. Yeah.
Which is a very, very
The only difference I will say to favor Brady a little bit, Jordan never beat LeBron in a Super Bowl, so I will say that part does favor Brady a bit. The fact that Brady having the win on Mahomes in the Super Bowl already is going to put Mahomes in a spot where not only does he have to tie Brady's Super Bowls overall, but he'll probably have to win at least one more, if not have significantly better career stats.
And also, too, he won it with 2 different coaches. I mean, what has Bill Belichick done without Tom Brady? I mean, Andy Reid had plenty of success before he got Patrick Mahomes. I mean, he took Philadelphia to a Super Bowl and 4 straight NFC Championship games.
Well, Andy Reid, I would say his reputation was he can't win the big game before he had Mahomes.
That's right. It was.
No,
That's
but
true.
Belichick's reputation
I always
for
liked
him
him
to
as
be
a
an
head
NFL
coach, but he was judged very unfairly. And now you can argue he's a better head coach all time than Bill Belichick. A lot of people make that argument.
I don't know.
That's
Wins,
debatable.
Belichick still has that.
That's the point, though. It's debatable. It wasn't debatable 10 years ago.
Agreed. Totally. I think it's more debatable now with
But
Andy
the thing
Reid.
is, it turns out that like but my point is that the conventional wisdom turned out to be wrong. It's not that Andy Reid became an amazing head coach when he went to the Chiefs. It's that he always really was a good head coach, and he just never had a fair chance. That's the more likely scenario. And the public just kind of got it wrong.
Well,
I agree, Nick. I think Andy Reid is a better coach than Bill Belichick. He's proved he can win with different quarterbacks.
And to stop you there for a second, how could you say he never had a fair chance when he went to 4 NFC championships and a Super Bowl then? He
didn't really have a fair shot to win the Super Bowl, is what I'm saying. To win, because he really didn't have good enough teams. He took teams that really just otherwise weren't good enough. Who were his quarterbacks?
McNabb.
Yeah, McNabb was the best quarterback he had.
Well,
he didn't have Tom Brady.
That sounds like a McNabb issue, though, because McNabb was never a clutch quarterback that could win.
Right, that's the point. Donovan McNabb was his best quarterback.
Yeah, but
It's true.
I think we're forgetting the Kevin Cobb days, guys.
Right.
But I don't
It's
know.
not even more so an Andy Reid issue, kind of like what Nick Allen was just alluding to, though. It's more of a quarterback thing.
I think that's more of a quarterback situation than an Andy Reid situation.
That's the point I'm making, is that, like, yeah, it was a quarterback issue. But, like, Donovan McNabb was his best quarterback, and he went to the Super Bowl with him.
But you could also make the whole argument debate, the whole McNabb, T.O. situation was a problem in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And but that's not an Andy Reid problem, though.
No,
that's
the point. Like, none of that was really his fault.
And what playoff wins does Belichick have without Tom Brady?
None.
Zero.
None.
I mean,
like if Belichick was such a genius and that's the reason they won all those Super Bowls, that the reason they had the dynasty, how come like he couldn't do it with Mac Jones?
Well, we're talking about two different types of quarterbacks.
Look at
there.
that talent
That's the
around
argument.
Mac Jones. It sucked.
But what I would also say is it's different eras also of football, also at the same time. But Andy Reid needed a change of scenery just because he was never going to win in Philadelphia. Like he could have kept running that back and going to an NFC championship, and he was never going to win just because Philadelphia was not ready to win when he was there. I mean,
how Philadelphia was ready to win when Doug Peterson was the coach, and just like how Philadelphia's ready to win now when Nick Sirianni's the coach, clearly. So,
well, let's be careful with Peterson. Like, I know he won a title, but like, I think that was more of a fluke than like this time around when
No, I know that. It was more so it was more so the team he had and less him. I know that.
You're talking about Doug Peterson?
Yeah.
He won with a backup quarterback.
But I think that was more of a fluke than anything.
How was it a fluke? I mean, look, I wouldn't say it was because of his team. He won with his backup. He won with Nick Foles.
They won on a freaking play that no one expected.
Okay, who drew up that play?
I understand.
Peterson drew up that play.
I understand, but
okay, he deserves credit for that. You're saying they won on a play that nobody expected. That's why people call Bill Belichick a genius, because he draws up a whole bunch of plays nobody expects.
I mean,
and I'll take it a step further. I think they outcoached the Patriots in that Super Bowl.
Belichick.
He did.
They won. If
New England even admitted it after the game.
If
for no reason,
any Super Bowl winning head coach had won because of them and not because of his team, it's Doug Peterson. Regardless of whatever else happened afterwards, that Super Bowl is on him. It really is on him. He won with his backup against Brady and Belichick.
Okay, so why didn't he survive after it then?
Well, the reason I think is because he tanked at one point. But by the way, what does that have to do with anything? What does that have to do with anything? All that matters is that like I said, it has nothing to do with what went on after that. I'm just saying, if you look at that Super Bowl, they won because of his own merits. It doesn't mean he's going to have a lot of success in the future.
That was also a really good Patriots team that he beat.
I agree with that.
One of the better Patriots teams that honestly they could have won.
I mean, Bill Belichick didn't survive without Brady. He ended up getting fired, basically.
There was a couple of years, weirdly enough, that we won the Super Bowl with not as great teams, and there was ones that specifically 07, Pat, you're welcome. Which my dad was at, by the way. He was at that one.
My dad was too funny enough.
So
wait a minute, which one was the almost 18-0 season?
07-08.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so you were at the other one,
07.
or your dad was at the other one?
No, it was that one.
Oh, was it that one?
Yeah, it was that one. He said 07.
07.
So that must have felt even better, stopping an 18-0 season.
That's crazy that he was actually there. That's cool.
Both of our dads were there, funny
I remember
enough.
I had to go to school the next morning for Jump Rope for Heart, if you guys remember that. With a bunch of Giants fans that were coming up to me.
Yeah?
Saying, so how was that perfect season? And wasn't pretty.
Ben got into a lot of fights that day.
Well,
that's what it is.
So basically, that's how we got to this score, 40-22. Eagles win. Sirianni. Now I can, eat your words. You said he should have been fired.
That's right. You can see Crow now because you were the one that was calling for his job if they lost the Super Bowl.
I still don't like him. I don't think he's a good coach. But
don't worry, Dan Orlovsky's in a worse spot than he could ever be.
What did he say again? I don't.
He was calling for the job and stuff, and he was saying Sirianni should be out.
Well, right now, Orlovsky might not have a job with ESPN, so maybe who's got the last word?
He said, first take, guys, I got to take a mental break. I have to get out of here.
That was probably the most BS. Oh, I might have another contract offer with another company. I better go see if that means I can work less, like all these other guys. Go ask McAfee. He works less days, all because of the way he made this deal. I don't know. But we can put a bow on this season. Eagles win. Chiefs don't get the three-peat.
You're going to go over records now, too.
Yeah, I have the records. So I had 370. Zan had 361. Let's see. Grant had 357. Nick had 351. Ben had 336. Anthony 355. And Pat said you gave me your pick, but it's still 296. But
hey.
But that's pretty much it. Let's see. The only two who got it right were Ben and Kanan, who made the pick on the Eagles. So
yeah, we all lost. The rest of us lost.
Kanan also got the first touchdown right. He predicted Jalen Hurts to get the first TD.
Ooh, nice. For the record, I would have had it wrong as well. I did pick the Chiefs to win. So,
by the way, that would have been a great bet, Anthony, because I think Jalen first touchdown was plus 550 going into the game. That would have made someone a lot of. I'm sure it made people a lot of money. Actually.
Oh yeah, for sure. People definitely bet on that.
Well, everyone was expecting tush pushes. I don't think we had one. Or was it the first one? The first one was a tush push.
First one
right?
was a tush push, yeah.
And then after that, we didn't see it the
would've
rest
been,
of the game.
what would have been, what would have been insane is instead of the tush push one, if the initial one that everybody thought was a touchdown to Dotson, people would have made a fortune off that. Oh my
Yeah,
god!
there were some people with some big Dotson bets.
I think that one was like in the plus 1000s area. I think Dotson on the first touchdown. I think because it was nearby impossible. Like no one thought he was going to get the football.
Somebody probably wanted to break their TV after that.
Well, Nick, I'll ask you also. Speaking of bets, that unnecessary wager parlay.
It didn't hit.
Well, did you hit any of the steps?
3 of 3. I went 3 and 3.
Okay, that's not too bad. 50-50. But...
Yeah, it's still zero. It's a $0 payout.
Oh yeah, it's a $0 payout.
No, so it doesn't pay the bills, is what I'm saying.
No, it doesn't.
Not that winning it would have paid the bills, but
what was it like $1?
Enough, but
$1 to win 1,000.
Hey.
But it is what it is. But as we said, we're gonna kind of end here. This is the end of football forecast for the season, end of our football content for the season for both NFL and college football. So as those head into the off season, we'll still have some Substack exclusive content for some football stuff. So be aware of that. We will now head into the off season. Anthony and Kanan will take over this show as a podcast forum, obviously in the off season. So that's going to be next week. So the NFL off season commences. They will take it over. Same time, same place, Saturday, noon Eastern. So make sure you tune into that. And just some quick little tidy up notes, I guess. We had some feedback from everybody, our group here, and we are changing the scoring, like I started to mention, for next year. We're going to throw out the win-loss as points, and it's going to be strictly spread. Strictly spread when we do the picks next year, because we had some BS behind the scenes when we were trying to figure out who was right and who was wrong.
Well, we'll still have records, right? It'll just be now straight up records based on if we got the spread right or wrong.
Yes.
So originally it was win-loss. Win was 2 points. Getting the spread right was 2 points. Now it'll just be a straight 4 points of getting the spread right.
So if you want more legitimate records, you're finally getting them. So,
and if you lock, you have to get the spread right. That's legitimately. I mean, we did that anyway. Like you had to get the win, but now you're literally locking in on a spread this time, as opposed to thinking about the victory. So there's a little more thought process that goes into your lock.
Hell yeah.
This a little less, if anything.
Yeah,
you're only thinking one thing. It's less.
Yeah. Well, that means Nick, you and I can.
The amount of thinking.
That means Nick, you and I could just take every spread against the Jets, and maybe we'll win.
Yeah. That'll readjust.
Yeah, you guys might go undefeated for the season on Walks Alone if you walk every pick against the Jets. You might not lose a game.
I mean, not that I'm going to get into it now, but $49 million of dead cap space. Now that Aaron's going to be a 6-1 cut, I think they were saying. So
that is what they said.
So Nick and I will be in Jet fandom hell for another season.
As a Bears fan, I'm happy. You deserve to be out of there.
It was bad. I mean, it was just one of those scenarios where you're just like, do I really want to deal with this anymore? Do I really want to deal with, I don't know, the ego and the drama from Aaron? Just we thought we had it bad. Well, or other teams had it bad. We have it bad.
It's all right. Quinn Ewers will serve you guys well next season.
Oh, yeah, because that's so much better. I really want Ward, but I know it's not going to happen.
Hey, you never know. Might be a trade. You never know.
Oh, God, our trades are
bring Dion and Shadur Sanders and call it a day.
Yeah, well, we'll have plenty of time to talk about the NFL draft and all that nonsense, but that'll do it. Make sure you follow Football Forecast on social media at TFB Forecast ETB. Even through the off season, as I said, Anthony and Kanan will take the show over in podcast form, so make sure you follow that. on all social medias, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Follow our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ETB Network, for all shows, including this one and all the other shows we have. ETB Network Substack, where all exclusive content. If you would like to unlock the stories, it's $5 a month for all this content. So think of it as a bargain. You're getting a ton of content for $5 a month or $60 a year.
$5 a month and the entire podcast archive all in one place.
Yeah, so if you're not going to YouTube, you can listen on there as well. etbnetwork.substack.com, and listen to Football Forecast wherever you get your podcast. This one will be up on audio this week, so you will be able to listen to it if you can't watch us on YouTube. And finally, Football Forecast presented by Playback, playback.tv/ETB Network. We will be doing the NBA All-Star Weekend, so please come join us and watch the game. And we have some other stuff burning in the fire as well. Okay, now that I'm out of breath and I have no words left to say, for everybody here at the ETB Network, the NFL season is officially closed. We will say sayonara to the 24-25 season, and now we will head into the offseason. Have a good week, everybody. We will see you around.
Good.